Hello everyone, and welcome. Thanks for taking the time to watch this SPSS training series. The following videos will familiarize you with the fundamental skills and knowledge in using SPSS. SPSS is a statistics and data analysis program from IBM. It is very popular, powerful, and offers many options for analyzing the data that you may come across. SPSS is highly relevant to social work policy, practice, and programming. For clinical students, it can be particularly useful for examining individual progress and outcomes. For AGPP and SEA students, it can be very useful for conducting formative and outcome evaluations of programs. And for policy students, it can be useful for examining population trends and evaluating policies. SPSS has been around for over 40 years and has since seen many changes, including changes to its own name. It has been previously known as the Statistical Package for the Social Sciences, SPSS, the Predictive Analytics Software, or PASW, and now IBM SPSS Statistics. The videos for this course were made using IBM SPSS Statistics version 20. New versions of SPSS roll around about once a year. Although SPSS changes from version to version, the general commands remain more or less the same. By the end of this tutorial, you should know how to create and recode variables in your dataset, enter data into the SPSS data editor, generate descriptive statistics using SPSS commands, and create charts and graphs to display results. Let's get started by opening up the IBM SPSS Statistics program. To access SPSS, first go to the Start menu and under All Programs, find IBM SPSS Statistics. From there, select SPSS Statistics 20. Initially, the SPSS Data Editor window will open with a Queries window in front, which provides you with options for opening up existing files, among others. Since we will not be using data at this point in the tutorial, you can get rid of this window by simply clicking Cancel. When you have been using SPSS at your own PC in the recent past, it will give you the option of opening up the last few files that you've accessed in SPSS, assuming that you've saved them, similar to other Microsoft Office programs. As you can see, the spreadsheet that is opened up is very similar to an Excel or Access spreadsheet in Microsoft Office. This is called the Data Editor. The Data Editor is a worksheet used for entering and editing data, as well as creating variables. The Data Editor window is one of three windows that you may find yourself working with in SPSS. The other two are the Output window and the Syntax window. We will talk about these later on in the tutorial. For now, note that the Data Editor window has two panes, the Data View and the Variable View. You can switch between each by clicking on the tab at the bottom left of the Data Editor window, like so. Please click on the Data View tab. The Data View tab is where you normally type in or view your data. If this were a data set, we would generally see a spreadsheet full of numbers. Note that each row represents a case, such as a person, state, organization, or country, and each column represents a variable, like age, gender, marital status, number of staff, or GDP, for example. Since this is a blank data set, we do not have any variables, but let's type in some data now to see what happens.
Please type in number 1 in the first column of the first row. Then push Enter. As you can see, SPSS has provided a default name for our first variable, VAR0001. We would typically not want to give our variable a name such as this, as we would have trouble identifying what this variable actually means. For now, let's click on the variable view to get more information on the variable that SPSS has created for us. As you can see, VAR0001 has several characteristics. Note that when you are in variable view, the columns and rows have different meaning. In variable view, each row represents a variable rather than a case, and each column represents a characteristic of the variable. We will go over each one of these characteristics when we review the process of creating variables. For now, let's familiarize you with the list of menu options at the top menu bar. You might already be familiar with File, Edit, and View options, which are pretty standard in most programs for saving, opening, or undoing actions, stuff like that. But there's also the Data menu option. And this is typically used to manipulate the cases of your dataset, to do things like sort, split, and merge the cases of your dataset. There's also the Transform menu item, which allows you to modify variables. And the Transform option is very useful for doing things like creating a score based on answers to an index or subgroup of variables. Analyze provides options for examining the distributions, proportions, and statistics from one or more variables. And this is the option you will likely be using the most. The Graph menu is used to generate charts and images. The Help menu can be very helpful as it includes text, videos, and images that teach you how to use SPSS. The other drop-down menus allow you to use some of the more advanced functions of SPSS that will not be reviewed during this training. This concludes the orientation module of the SPSS training series. In the next video, we'll review the procedures for creating variables.